The people who spend the most time trying to change themselves often change the least. They chase new habits, read the books, and track everything religiously. Yet the person in the mirror stays exactly the same. Have you ever worked harder on yourself than anyone you know and still felt like you were standing still? This is not your fault or a lack of willpower. It is a problem of architecture, one that both cutting-edge brain science and Stoic philosophy reveal how to fix. The people who assume letting go is just a matter of choice often miss what is really happening inside. They believe one strong decision should wipe the slate clean, yet the same old memories keep surfacing at the worst moments. Roy Baumeister and his team reviewed hundreds of studies in 2001. They discovered that bad experiences hit harder and stay longer than good ones of equal strength. A single sharp criticism from a boss can echo for weeks. Praise from the same person fades by the next morning. This is not some personal flaw. It is how the brain is built. Paul Rozin later described the same effect in ordinary daily life. Negative events pull more attention and leave deeper marks. Positive ones pass by almost without notice. That difference is wired deep. The brain's architecture favors the negative because it once kept us alive. For most of human history, danger waited around every corner. A missed threat could end a life in seconds. A missed reward felt disappointing, but rarely cost everything. So the system learned to lock onto the bad and store it with extra care. You are not broken for remembering the painful parts more clearly. You are running software shaped 200,000 years ago. That software still scans for threats first, even when today's threats are only words or glances. The system is not broken. It is just running the wrong program. This ancient wiring creates a mismatch in modern life. The brain cannot tell the difference between a real physical danger and an emotional one. A failed meeting from 10 years ago gets stored with the same intensity as a close call on a dark road. There is no built-in filter that asks whether the memory still matters. It simply holds on tight. Rick Hansen captured this in his work on how the mind treats experiences. Negative moments cling like Velcro. Positive ones slip away like Teflon. The result is a quiet imbalance that makes change feel heavier than it should. Now consider what happens when you try to update those old memories. Karim Nader's research in the early 2000s changed everything we thought we knew. He showed that every time a memory is recalled, it becomes temporarily unstable. For a short window, the brain can rewrite parts of it before locking it back in place. That discovery opened a door. Stoic thinkers practiced something similar long before any lab measured it. They would calmly revisit difficult situations in their minds, not to dwell on them, but to reduce their emotional grip. The science now confirms why that practice worked. Controlled recall weakens the power of the memory without erasing the lesson. You carry an architecture that once protected you. It still does its job, but the job description changed when the world changed. Understanding this shift is the first real step toward working with your brain instead of fighting it. People often wonder why the past feels so heavy, even when they want to move forward. The brain does not treat every memory the same. Some stick with unusual force, others fade almost immediately. Baumeister's 2001 summary of research made this clear. Bad events are encoded with more detail. They are retrieved more often. They last longer in storage. A harsh comment in a meeting 10 years ago can still trigger the same physical tension as it did on the day it happened. A kind word from the same period barely registers anymore. This is not laziness or lack of effort. It is the brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. The design goes back 200,000 years. Early humans lived in environments where one wrong step could mean death. Forgetting a predator's location was far more dangerous than forgetting a good berry patch. The system learned to prioritize the negative. It gave threats extra weight so they would not be overlooked. That same system is still running inside you today. It scans for danger first. It stores the painful moments with extra vividness. You feel the pull of old regrets, not because you are weak, but because the architecture inside you was built for survival in a much harsher world. The mismatch appears in small ways every day. A casual remark at work can replay for hours. A genuine compliment is gone in minutes. The brain has no automatic way to ask if the old threat still applies. It simply reacts as if the danger is fresh. Hansen noticed the same pattern in his studies of attention and emotion. He called it the Velcro-Teflon Effect. Negative experiences stick. Positive ones slide away. The result is a slow accumulation of emotional weight that makes forward movement feel exhausting. When you try to let go, you are not fighting your own laziness. You are working against an architecture that once kept your ancestors alive. Recognizing this changes the conversation. The problem is not willpower. The problem is timing. Your brain's software was written long before modern life arrived. Nader's breakthrough in the early 2000s showed a way forward. He proved that memories are not fixed files. Each time you bring one to mind, it becomes flexible again for a brief period. During that window, new information can be added. The emotional charge can be dialed down. The memory itself stays, but its grip loosens. Stoics understood this without scanners or labs. They sat quietly and reviewed hard moments on purpose. They imagined the worst and practiced calm responses. They did not do it to punish themselves. They did it to reduce the memory's power over the present. Science later confirmed their instinct was right. You carry an architecture shaped by survival needs from another era. It still works. It still protects. But it no longer matches the world you live in. The memories it holds so tightly are often no longer useful. They simply take up space. This is why letting go feels harder than choosing to move on. The choice is real. The resistance is biological. Understanding the resistance is the only way to work with it instead of against it. The brain keeps old hurts alive for a reason. That reason made sense once. It no longer does. Yet the system keeps running the same program. You notice the drag in quiet moments. You feel it when you try to start something new. The past keeps whispering even when you want silence. Baumeister's work in 2001 gave us the numbers. Negative events create stronger traces. They demand more mental resources. They return uninvited. Rosen saw it in simple daily choices. People remember insults far longer than compliments. The imbalance is measurable. It is not imaginary. 200,000 years of evolution left their mark. Danger was everywhere. Safety was rare. The brain that survived was the one that never forgot the lion's roar or the rival's threat. Rewards could wait. Threats could not. Today, the lions are gone. The threats are smaller. The brain has not updated its rulebook. It still treats a raised eyebrow like a charging animal. It still files away the awkward conversation with the same urgency. Hansen described the result as a mind that collects negatives like magnets. Positive experiences wash through without sticking. The collection grows heavier over time. Change becomes harder because the weight is invisible. Nader's experiments in the early 2000s gave hope. He showed memories can be rewritten when they are brought into the open. Each recall creates a short window of flexibility. New, calmer information can be added. The old emotional charge fades. the lesson remains. Stoics practiced the same idea centuries earlier. They reviewed difficulties in the morning and again at night. They imagined the worst and prepared a steady response. They did not call it science. They called it preparation. The effect was the same. The grip of the past loosened. You carry an architecture designed for a different time. It once kept you safe. It now sometimes holds you back. The key is not to fight the architecture. The key is to understand it. Then you can work inside it. Letting go is not a simple decision. It is a process of updating old code. The brain resists because it was built to resist. Once you see the reason for the resistance, the path forward becomes clearer. But if the brain resists letting go of the past, what does it do with the future? Your brain treats tomorrow's version of you like a stranger. It does not protect what it does not recognize. That single fact explains why so many plans quietly fail. Hirschfeld at New York University ran a careful study in 2009. He placed volunteers inside an fMRI scanner. He showed them a photo of themselves as they looked right now. The medial prefrontal cortex lit up right away. That is the area linked to self-recognition. Then he showed them a digitally aged photo of themselves years ahead. The same brain area stayed completely quiet. The scanner recorded the same response the brain gives when it sees a stranger or a fictional character. The future you, as far as your brain is concerned, is not you. Hirschfeld took the same idea into everyday decisions. He asked people how connected they felt to their future selves. Those who felt little connection chose immediate comfort far more often. They spent more money today instead of saving. They skipped exercise sessions they had promised themselves. They let healthy meals wait while they reached for something quick. The brain simply did not see any reason to sacrifice for someone it did not know.
This is not a matter of weak willpower. It is a matter of how identity is tagged inside the brain. When you say, "I will become more disciplined next month," the brain hears a description of another person. It does not shift energy or attention to help that person. It does not guard their future the way it guards yours today. The promise never fully lands. One man told himself he would start running every morning once he felt ready. He waited 6 months. The future runner remained a stranger. Another person promised to read more books after the holidays. The holidays passed. The future reader never showed up. These are not isolated stories. They are what happens when the brain draws a line between now and later. Marcus Aurelius never wrote wishes about who he hoped to become. In his Meditations, he wrote in the present tense. He described the person he was choosing to be in that exact moment. He did not say, "I will stay calm tomorrow." He practiced calm right then. He did not say, "I will be patient next year." He chose patience in the conversation he was having today. The Stoics invested in the self they were rehearsing now. Science later showed why their approach worked so well. You carry an architecture inside you that decides who deserves protection. It draws the line at the present. The future sits outside that line until you bring it closer. So the investment you plan for later never really begins. Understanding this changes the entire conversation. You stop waiting for a future version to arrive. You start rehearsing the version you want today. Each small choice becomes a rehearsal. Each rehearsal strengthens the connection. The stranger in your future slowly becomes someone the brain already knows and protects. People often plan big changes for the person they will be in 5 years. They imagine a fitter, calmer, more focused version. They set goals for that version. They write lists and buy equipment. Yet the person who actually shows up to do the work is still the one living today.
The brain sees no connection. The gap shows up in quiet ways. A woman saved for retirement, but spent freely on small treats. She told herself the future her would understand. The future her never got the chance. The money slipped away bit by bit. Another man promised himself he would learn a new language when he had more time. Time came and went. The future student never sat down with the books. The brain had already filed the goal under someone else's problem. This reframe takes the pressure off the distant future. It brings the work back to the present moment. You do not have to wait for the future self to show up. You can start becoming that person right now. The brain begins to recognize the connection. The protection starts to extend forward. You carry an architecture inside you that can be updated one choice at a time. The update happens not by wishing, it happens by practicing. The stranger becomes family. The future becomes part of the present. The brain's response is clear in the data. Low connection leads to short-term choices. High connection leads to steady progress. The difference is not effort. The difference is recognition. Marcus Aurelius understood this without scanners. He wrote in the present. He lived the identity he chose. His meditations are full of sentences that begin with, "I am," not "I will be." That choice made the future self real today. You can make the same choice. You can write your own present tense sentences. You can practice the calm, the discipline, the patience you want. The brain will start to see the connection. The protection will follow. The stranger in your future is waiting to be introduced. The introduction happens in the choices you make today. Each choice is a meeting. Each meeting brings the future closer. The brain that once ignored the future self begins to welcome it. This is the quiet power of the present.
This is how you turn the stranger into someone you already know. The same study showed numbers that surprised everyone. People with the lowest connection to their future selves saved 30% less for retirement. They exercised 20% less often. They ate more processed food, even when they said they wanted to eat better. The numbers were clear. The brain was not investing in a stranger. Another group in the study felt strong overlap. They made different choices. They put money aside regularly. They showed up for workouts. They chose the harder option because the future felt like an extension of today. The difference came down to one thing. The brain recognized the person in the future as part of itself. You see the same thing in small daily moments. A father tells himself he will spend more time with his children when work slows down. Work never slows. The future father stays distant. The children grow up without the time he meant to give. A student promises to study harder after the next break. The break ends. The future student never opens the books. The grade slips. The opportunity passes. These moments are not failures of character. They are failures of recognition. The Stoics avoided this trap without any brain scanner. Marcus Aurelius sat with his thoughts each morning. He wrote about the man he was in that hour. He did not dream about the man he might become. His meditations are filled with present choices. He chose justice. He chose courage. He chose wisdom right then. The future took care of itself because the present was already aligned. You can follow the same path. You can choose the identity you want in the next hour. You can practice it in the next conversation. You can rehearse it in the next decision. The brain will begin to connect the dots. The stranger will start to feel familiar. The architecture inside you is flexible. It updates when you give it new information. The new information is the present action. The present action tells the brain who you are. The brain begins to protect that person. The protection extends into the future. This reframe frees you from waiting. It puts the power back in today. You do not need to become someone new later. You can be that person now. The brain will follow. The data from Hirschfeld confirmed what the Stoics lived. The present is the only place where change actually happens. The future self is built one present moment at a time. The stranger becomes you when you start acting like you today. You carry an architecture that can bridge the gap. The bridge is built with present choices. Each choice is a step. Each step brings the future closer. The brain that once saw a stranger begins to see home. This is how you make the future real. This is how you turn the stranger into family. The connection grows with every present action. The brain begins to see the future as an extension of today. The protection becomes automatic. The stranger fades. The self you are building becomes the self you protect. The choice is yours in this moment. The brain is watching what you do now. It tags the identity you practice. It extends the protection to the person you are becoming. The future self stops being a stranger. It becomes the person you already are. The knowing-doing gap has never been about not knowing enough. Most people already know what they need to do. They know they should move their bodies more. They know they should put the phone down earlier. Yet the days slip by and nothing changes. Peter Gollwitzer published his study in 2001. He took two groups of ordinary people who all wanted the same thing. They all wanted to exercise more. One group simply made a firm commitment to the goal. The other group answered one extra question. When exactly would they do it, and where? The results came back clear and measurable. The second group followed through 91% of the time. The first group managed only about 35%.
This was not theory or philosophy. This was counted behavior in real life. The single added detail changed everything. The brain treats a vague wish differently from a concrete plan. A general intention like, "I want to be more disciplined," stays up in the prefrontal cortex. It floats there as a nice idea. When you add the exact time and place, it drops down into procedural memory. That is the same part of the brain that knows how to tie your shoes without thinking. The action no longer needs constant reminders. It simply happens. Specificity does not just help you remember. It changes where the information lives inside your head. Take something as simple as wanting to read more. One person told himself he would read every evening. Evenings came and went with other things filling the hours. Another person said he would read 10 pages at 9 p.m. in bed before turning out the light. The book stayed open. The pages added up night after night. The only difference was the when and the where. The same thing shows up with morning routines. A man promised himself he would meditate. He waited for the perfect quiet moment that never arrived. Another man decided he would sit for 10 minutes at 6 a.m. before the house woke up. He placed his cushion by the window the night before. The cushion was there when the alarm sounded. The 10 minutes happened. You do not need to overhaul your entire life first. You do not need to fix every old memory or reconnect with some distant future self. You can start with one small, specific sentence today. Marcus Aurelius never wrote long lists of future goals. In his Meditations, he described exact responses he would choose. When someone spoke harshly, he would pause and listen first. When irritation rose, he would remember what was in his control and what was not. He did not hope to become calmer someday. He practiced calm in the moment he was living. The Stoics did not journal. They programmed.
This approach gives you something you can use right now. Pick one thing you have been meaning to do. Add the exact time and the exact place. Say it out loud or write it down. The brain will treat it as a plan instead of a wish. The gap between knowing and doing begins to close without any extra willpower. People often set the same goals year after year. They feel motivated at the beginning. They buy the books and the equipment. Yet February arrives and the plan has quietly disappeared. The reason is rarely lack of desire. It is lack of detail. One woman wanted to eat better. She told herself she would choose healthier meals. The healthier meals stayed on the shopping list. Another woman decided she would prepare a salad at 6 p.m. every weekday right after she walked in the door. The ingredients were already washed and ready in the fridge. The salad happened. The numbers from Gollwitzer's study matched what she experienced. The specific plan won by a wide margin. The prefrontal cortex handles the dream. Procedural memory handles the doing. Specificity moves the plan from one area to the other. The action feels lighter because the brain already knows the route. Marcus Aurelius faced the same daily pressures you do. He wrote his responses in advance. When he met an impatient person, he reminded himself to speak slowly. When he felt the urge to avoid a difficult letter, he told himself he would open it immediately and answer one line at a time. He rehearsed the exact steps in the present. The future took care of itself because the present was already prepared. You carry the same ability inside you. You can write one specific response today. You can decide exactly when and where the next small action will happen. The brain will follow the clear path you give it. No grand overhaul is required. No waiting for perfect conditions. This is the variable everyone skips. It is not exciting. It is not complicated. It is simply the detail that turns intention into movement. The brain is ready when you give it a clear cue. The cue is the when and the where. You can add that cue in the next hour if you choose. The rest builds quietly from there. But if specificity is the key, why do the most structured people sometimes fail the most consistently? The knowing-doing gap has never been about not knowing enough. Most people already know what they should do. They know they should move their bodies more. They know they should put the phone down earlier. They know they should answer that difficult email instead of letting it sit. Yet the days keep slipping by and nothing changes. Peter Gollwitzer published his study in 2001. He took two groups of ordinary people who all wanted the same thing. They all wanted to exercise more. One group simply made a firm commitment to the goal. The other group answered one extra question. When exactly would they do it and where? The results came back clear and measurable. The second group followed through 91% of the time. The first group managed only about 35%. This was not theory or philosophy. This was counted behavior in real life. The single added detail changed everything. The brain treats a vague wish differently from a concrete plan. A general intention like, "I want to be more disciplined," stays up in the prefrontal cortex. It floats there as a nice idea. When you add the exact time and place, it drops down into procedural memory. That is the same part of the brain that knows how to tie your shoes without thinking. The action no longer needs constant reminders. It simply happens. Specificity does not just help you remember. It changes where the information lives inside your head. Take something as simple as wanting to read more. One person told himself he would read every evening. Evenings came and went with other things filling the hours. Another person said he would read 10 pages at 9 p.m. in bed before turning out the light. The book stayed open. The pages added up night after night. The only difference was the when and the where.
The same thing shows up with morning routines. A man promised himself he would meditate. He waited for the perfect quiet moment that never arrived. Another man decided he would sit for 10 minutes at 6 a.m. before the house woke up. He placed his cushion by the window the night before. The cushion was there when the alarm sounded. The 10 minutes happened. You do not need to overhaul your entire life first. You do not need to fix every old memory or reconnect with some distant future self. You can start with one small, specific sentence today. Marcus Aurelius never wrote long lists of future goals. In his meditations, he described exact responses he would choose. When someone spoke harshly, he would pause and listen first. When irritation rose, he would remember what was in his control and what was not. He did not hope to become calmer someday. He practiced calm in the moment he was living. The Stoics did not journal. They programmed. This approach gives you something you can use right now. Pick one thing you have been meaning to do. Add the exact time and the exact place. Say it out loud or write it down. The brain will treat it as a plan instead of a wish. The gap between knowing and doing begins to close without any extra willpower. People often set the same goals year after year. They feel motivated at the beginning. They buy the books and the equipment. Yet February arrives, and the plan has quietly disappeared. The reason is rarely lack of desire. It is lack of detail. One woman wanted to eat better. She told herself she would choose healthier meals. The healthier meals stayed on the shopping list. Another woman decided she would prepare a salad at 6 p.m. every weekday right after she walked in the door. The ingredients were already washed and ready in the fridge. The salad happened. The numbers from Gollwitzer's study matched what she experienced. The specific plan won by a wide margin. The prefrontal cortex handles the dream. Procedural memory handles the doing. Specificity moves the plan from one area to the other. The action feels lighter because the brain already knows the route. Marcus Aurelius faced the same daily pressures you do. He wrote his responses in advance. When he met an impatient person, he reminded himself to speak slowly. When he felt the urge to avoid a difficult letter, he told himself he would open it immediately and answer one line at a time. He rehearsed the exact steps in the present. The future took care of itself because the present was already prepared. You carry the same ability inside you. You can write one specific response today. You can decide exactly when and where the next small action will happen. The brain will follow the clear path you give it. No grand overhaul is required. No waiting for perfect conditions. This is the variable everyone skips. It is not exciting. It is not complicated. It is simply the detail that turns intention into movement. The brain is ready when you give it a clear cue. The cue is the when and the where. You can add that cue in the next hour if you choose. The rest builds quietly from there. A teacher in Chicago wanted to grade papers faster. She told herself she would do them every afternoon. Afternoons filled with other tasks. She changed one sentence. She would grade 3 papers at 4:15 p.m. right after the last bell at her desk by the window. The papers got graded. The pile shrank. A father in Texas wanted to call his parents more often. He said he would do it when he had time. Time never came. He changed the sentence to, "I will call at 7 p.m. every Sunday before dinner." The phone rang every Sunday. The conversations happened. Specificity works because the brain loves clear instructions. A vague goal stays in the wishing part of the mind. A timed and placed plan moves to the automatic part. The difference shows up in the numbers. 91%
versus 35%. The gap is not motivation. The gap is missing detail. Marcus Aurelius sat with his thoughts each morning. He did not dream about the wise man he might become. He wrote the exact way he would speak to a difficult senator. He wrote the exact way he would handle a soldier who complained. He practiced the response in the present. The future version of himself was built one present choice at a time. You can do the same thing tonight. Pick one small thing. Write the when and the where. Say it once. The brain will begin to treat it as real. The action will start to happen without the same old struggle. This is the release you have been waiting for. You do not need to wait for the perfect version of yourself. You do not need to fix everything first. You can act with one clear detail today. The rest follows. The knowing-doing gap closes when you give the brain a precise cue. The cue is small. The cue is specific. The cue is yours to add right now. The prefrontal cortex holds the dream. Procedural memory turns the dream into habit. Specificity is the bridge between them. You build the bridge with one sentence. Marcus Aurelius understood this long before any study measured it. In his meditations, he filled page after page with present choices. He did not write, "I will be patient." He wrote, "When this man speaks harshly, I will listen first and answer slowly." The difference is everything. The Stoics did not journal, they programmed. You carry that same power. One specific sentence today, one clear time and place. The brain follows. The gap narrows. The action begins. People often feel the same frustration. They know the right thing. They want the right thing. Yet the right thing does not happen. The missing piece is almost always the same, the when and the where. A young accountant wanted to learn Spanish. He said he would practice every weekend. Weekends filled with other plans. He changed the sentence to, "I will practice 10 minutes at 8 a.m. Saturday before coffee." The app opened. The words came. The progress started. A mother wanted to walk more. She told herself she would walk after work. After work brought dinner and homework. She decided she would walk at 6:30 a.m. before the children woke. The shoes were by the door. The walk happened. The numbers from 2001 still hold true today. 91% when the plan is specific, 35% when it is not. The difference is not effort. The difference is detail. You do not need a new personality. You do not need a complete life reset. You need one clear sentence. Write it. Speak it. The brain will do the rest. This is the quiet permission you have been looking for. You can act today without waiting for everything else to be perfect. The Stoics did not journal. They programmed. The brain is listening. Give it the cue. The cue is yours. The change begins now. But if specificity is the key, why do the most structured people sometimes fail the most consistently? The people with the most detailed plans and the tightest schedules are often the ones who burn out the fastest or see the least real change. They wake up at the same time every day. They block their calendar in 15-minute increments. They track every habit with apps and spreadsheets. Yet something inside them quietly fades. Edward Deci conducted his famous study at the University of Rochester in the early 1970s. He brought in two groups of students for the same puzzle-solving task. Group 1 played freely with no rewards.
Group 2 received money for each correct solution. After the paid session ended, both groups were left alone with the puzzles for a free period. The paid group stopped playing almost immediately. The unpaid group kept going with genuine interest. The difference was striking. Deci named the phenomenon the undermining effect. He later worked with Richard Ryan to build the self-determination theory around one simple distinction. People do things because they have to.
Or they do things because they choose them, and those choices reflect who they are. The first kind drains energy over time. The second kind builds it. The undermining effect shows up in everyday life. A man followed a strict gym program with a trainer and penalties for missing sessions. He hit every target for 3 months. Then the trainer left town. The man never returned to the gym. The structure had been doing the work for him. Another woman used a detailed meal plan app with reminders and points. She lost weight while the app was active. The day the subscription ended, the plan fell apart. The inner reason had never taken root. Epictetus was born into slavery. He spent his life distinguishing between actions done from fear of consequences and actions chosen from deep understanding. In his discourses, he repeated the point again and again. He did not care about the person who behaved correctly because someone was watching or because punishment waited. He cared about the person who had internalized the reason so completely that the right action felt natural. The Stoics drew a line that most modern systems ignore. 2 schedules can look identical from the outside. The same wake-up time, the same workout block, the same evening wind down. Yet one builds lasting change, the other requires constant maintenance. The difference is whether the person truly owns the why. The first system compounds. The second one requires maintenance forever. There is one more variable that determines whether any of this holds, and it is the one most self-improvement content gets exactly half right. 4. One je tuang tu niem tuk ve so tu. But if specificity is the key, why do the most structured people sometimes fail the most consistently? The people who build the most detailed plans and follow the tightest schedules are often the ones who lose their inner drive the quickest. They set alarms for every single task. They color-code their planners down to the minute. They track every habit with charts and reminders. Yet after a few months, something inside them quietly fades away. Edward Deci ran his study at the University of Rochester in the early 1970s. He gave 2 groups of students the same enjoyable puzzle to solve. One group played freely with no rewards at all. The other group received cash for each correct answer. When the payments stopped and both groups were left alone with the puzzles, the paid group put them down almost right away. The unpaid group kept playing because they genuinely wanted to. The difference was striking and measurable. Deci called this the undermining effect. He later worked with Richard Ryan to develop the self-determination theory around one clear distinction. Some actions come from outside pressure. Others come from an inner choice that truly reflects who you are. The first kind slowly drains your energy. The second kind keeps feeding it. The undermining effect appears in many ordinary places. A young professional joined a high-pressure productivity program with daily check-ins and fines for missing targets. He met every deadline for 4 straight months. The moment the program ended, he dropped the habits completely. The external push had been carrying him the whole time. A mother signed up for a detailed parenting schedule with timed activities and reward charts. She followed it perfectly while the chart was active. The day she took the chart down, the family routine fell apart. The inner reason had never taken root. Epictetus was born a slave. He taught throughout his discourses
The difference between doing something because you fear punishment and doing it because you have chosen it from deep understanding. He did not praise the person who behaved well only because someone was watching. He praised the person who had made the reason part of himself so the action felt natural. The Stoics made this distinction central to how they lived. Two daily routines can look exactly the same on paper.
The same wake-up time each morning, the same blocks for work and exercise, the same evening review before bed. Yet one person grows stronger and calmer over the years. The other person needs constant reminders and feels more exhausted than before. The difference lies in whether the person truly owns the reason behind the routine. The first routine builds on itself. The second one requires maintenance forever. A lawyer in Boston kept a color-coded calendar for 5 years. Every meeting, every workout, every meal was planned. He hit every target while the system was new. When work travel disrupted the calendar, he stopped everything. The schedule had been running his life. He had never asked why each piece mattered to him. A teacher in Denver followed a strict reading list with weekly goals and progress trackers. She finished every book on time for 2 years. The day she removed the trackers, the reading stopped. The love of learning had been replaced by the love of checking boxes. You see the same quiet failure in small daily choices. A man set alarms to drink water every hour. He followed the alarms for months. When the phone battery died one afternoon, he forgot the water entirely. The reminder had been doing the remembering for him. A woman planned her evenings with a detailed wind-down routine. She checked every step off the list. When life got busy, the routine vanished. She had never connected the steps to her own desire for rest. The undermining effect shows why so many well-planned lives still feel empty. The outside rules replace the inside reason. The energy that once came from choice now comes from compliance. Compliance feels heavy after a while. Epictetus faced far harder conditions than most of us ever will. He was sold as a slave, yet he taught freedom through choice. In his discourses, he asked his students to examine every action. Did they act because fear pushed them, or because understanding pulled them? He cared only about the second kind. The Stoics lived this question every day. You can ask yourself the same question tonight. Look at one part of your schedule. Ask whether you chose it because it reflects who you are, or whether you follow it because the plan demands it. The honest answer changes everything. Two people can wake at 5 in the morning and follow the same workout. One feels stronger and more alive after 6 months. The other feels trapped and tired. The difference is not the schedule. The difference is the reason inside the schedule. The first routine compounds quietly. The second one requires maintenance forever. There is one more variable that determines whether any of this holds, and it is the one most self-improvement content gets exactly half right. The question most people ask about accountability is simple. Do I have someone watching me or not? The real question is different. What is that person actually looking at when they watch? Gollwitzer published another set of experiments in 2009. He took people who had goals closely tied to how they saw themselves. Some shared those goals openly with friends and family. They received warm words of support and encouragement. Others kept the goals private. The group that shared and got the praise ended up less likely to complete the goals. The private group did better. The finding went against what most people expect. It has been repeated in many studies since then. When you share an identity goal and receive positive feedback, the brain gets a small hit of neural reward. The reward feels like progress has been made. The motivation to do the actual work drops a little. You are not lazy. The brain is simply optimizing.
It has already received part of the reward. The goal feels partly done. The architecture inside you is responding to that reward. The architecture is efficient. It takes the easy path when it can. The same thing shows up in many ordinary situations. A man in New York told his colleagues he was training for a marathon.
They said he was inspiring and they believed in him. He felt motivated. The training sessions became less frequent. The race day came, and he was not ready. The praise had replaced the need to run the miles. A woman in California told her book club she was writing a novel. They said she was talented, and they could not wait to read it. She felt good. The novel remained unfinished. The encouragement had taken the place of the writing. Epictetus warned about this danger many times. He was born into slavery. He lived through hardship most of us cannot imagine. In his discourses, he kept coming back to the same point. He did not want people to seek outside approval for their inner growth. He wanted them to build the growth inside first. Marcus Aurelius wrote openly about his mentors in his Meditations. He gave credit where it was due, but he made a clear distinction. Some people watch the process. They ask hard questions. Have you done the work yet? What actually happened? What will you change next time? Those questions create useful friction. They push you forward. Other people watch only the story you tell. They clap for your intentions. They say you are doing great. They make you feel like you are already there. That kind of watching creates an illusion. The illusion feels good in the moment. It replaces the need to do the real thing. The architecture inside you gets fooled. It thinks the goal is partly done. The real work stops. You carry an architecture that responds to feedback. The feedback can come from inside or from outside. When the feedback is about the effort you actually made, it strengthens you. When the feedback is about the intention you announced, it weakens the drive. The difference is subtle. It happens in small conversations. A friend asks how your new habit is going. You say you are trying. The friend says you are doing amazing. The brain registers the praise. The habit loses a little urgency. Another friend asks the same question. You say you are trying. The friend asks what exactly you did yesterday. The question stings a little, but it makes you want to have a better answer next time. That sting is the useful kind. It keeps the drive alive. The praise without the question is the dangerous kind. It makes you feel like you are already there. The most dangerous accountability partner is the one who makes you feel like you're already there. The architecture inside you is always listening to every word. It is building itself on what it hears. The right kind of watching builds the architecture stronger. The wrong kind leaves it weaker. This is the flip that changes how you choose who to tell. You do not need to hide everything. You need to choose the watchers who ask about the work, not the ones who cheer for the idea. The difference is everything. The first type makes you better. The second type makes you feel better. Feeling better is nice. Getting better is what lasts. You can see the same thing in small groups. A man joined a weekly mastermind. Everyone shared their goals. Everyone clapped and said, "Good job." 6 months later, most of the goals were still the same. The group felt supportive. The progress was missing. Another man joined a different group. They asked for specific updates on last week's actions. They asked what went wrong and what would change. The questions were direct. The progress was real. The group was smaller. The results were larger. A software engineer in Seattle set a goal to learn a new programming language. He told his team at work. They said he was smart, and they knew he would master it quickly. He felt encouraged. The learning sessions became less frequent. The goal slipped away.
The praise had given him the feeling of achievement. A teacher in Chicago wanted to improve her classroom management. She told her colleagues about her plan. They said she was a great teacher and it would be easy for her. She felt good. The plan stayed on paper.
The real changes in the classroom never happened. The support had replaced the need to practice the new methods. Marcus Aurelius had mentors he respected. He wrote about them in his Meditations. He thanked them for showing him how to live. But he never asked them to praise his intentions. He asked them to point out where he fell short. Epictetus did the same in his Discourses. He taught his students to seek the kind of feedback that hurt a little. The hurt was the sign that the feedback was real. The praise that felt too easy was the sign to be careful. You carry an architecture that grows through honest friction. The right accountability provides that friction. The wrong kind smooths everything over. The smooth surface feels comfortable. The friction is what builds strength. This is the perspective shift that changes everything. You stop asking if you have accountability. You start asking what kind of accountability you have. The kind that watches the work, or the kind that watches the story. One type strengthens the architecture inside you. The other type weakens it. The choice is yours in the next conversation you have about your goals. Choose the watcher who asks the hard questions. The one who makes you feel a little uncomfortable. That discomfort is the sign you are on the right path. The comfort is the sign you may be on the wrong one. The architecture inside you is always listening. Give it the right kind of watching. The results will follow. There is one more variable that determines whether any of this holds, and it is the one most self-improvement content gets exactly half right. The brain never reaches a finish line. It keeps reshaping itself based on what you repeat every day. Neuroplasticity shows this is a measured fact, not just an idea. That means there is no point where you are finally done becoming. But it also means it is never too late to begin a new calibration. The things that truly shift are not the big goals you set or the perfect systems you build. They are the quality of attention you bring to the smallest action each day. The exact words you choose when you decide what to do next. The kind of structure that feels like your own choice instead of someone else's rule. And who is truly seeing the real work, not just hearing the story. These three choices happen again and again, not once. They are happening right now in the next hour you choose. They are happening in the way you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. A father in Denver decided to read to his daughter every night at 8:15 p.m. after she brushed her teeth. He did not wait until he felt more patient or more prepared. He simply sat down each evening and opened the book. The habit became part of who he was. The brain recorded the repetition and made it easier the next night. A woman in Austin chose to write one honest sentence in her notebook at 10 p.m. before she turned off the light. She did not wait until she had the perfect system or the perfect mood. She wrote the sentence anyway. The pages filled quietly. The words began to feel like her own voice. Epictetus did not end his discourses with a long list of things to do. He ended with a single quiet question. What are you ruling with reason right now? Not tomorrow, not next week, right now. This is the practice. It is never a destination. It only asks for your attention. You carry an architecture that is always listening. It is always calibrating. Every small choice you make today adds another line to the blueprint. The blueprint does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be yours. The practice is simple, and it never ends. You choose the when and the where once more. You choose the kind of watching that truly sees the work.
You choose the reason that belongs to you, and then you do it again tomorrow. This is how the stranger in the future becomes someone the brain already knows.
This is how the past loses its unnecessary weight. This is how knowing turns into doing without the old struggle. The brain is ready. The choice is yours in this moment. What are you ruling with reason right now?